It's a joy to be here with you to celebrate 35 years of distance education at St. Mary of the Woods College. If you look back, my charge this morning is to talk about the time period of the 20 years in which I worked here as director of the program. And when you look back at your own life over the past 20 years, I think that you will agree that the impact of computer technology has been profound. That is definitely the case with the Woods and with WED. And I want to reflect with you how in 1989, when I arrived on campus in the office in Garin, WED staff thought they were really fortunate because we had 2 dedicated word processors. They were the size of large suitcases, and they could hold 20 pages of text. The world of mainframe computers was slowly giving way then to desktops, first standalones and then networked computers. And they were not cheap. Let me tell you, they were not cheap. In the year prior to my coming to the Woods, I bought my first personal computer, and you'll laugh at me, but in cleaning out some papers within the last couple of months, I found the invoices in the papers for it. It was a 40 meg hard drive. The salesman said I'd be using this for years and years to come. And HP's first DeskJet printer, the printer cost $800, and the computer was $3,000. I paid for this for years. Little by little, however, with support and an operating budget from sources like the annual fund, the college began what is an ongoing, never-ending task of acquiring hardware and software, networking computers, building and sustaining a campus infrastructure, training faculty and staff. The telecommunication made possible by computers also provided a whole range of new opportunities. From answering machines, which we didn't even have when I came to WED in 1989, in a few offices in the late 1980s, to full-blown voicemail and email systems, as these technologies became certainly the business standards or the professional standards in the 1990s. These advances made possible substantial growth in WED enrollment. First of all, they gave staff the means to handle large quantities of data and information that such growth required. They gave faculty new tools for teaching and learning. They vastly improved communication between WED students, Woods faculty, and Woods staff, and they enhanced connection with applicants. Some of you were in the WED program at a time when you just called and called and called and called until you finally reached the person on the phone that you wanted. There was no way to leave messages. And actually, much communication was done by mail at that time for that reason. From 1989 to 2000, the number of students enrolled in WED and their full-time equivalent more than doubled to well over 1,000 students, equivalent to nearly 500 full-time students. We figured out ways to accommodate more students at new WED residencies, at the same time still getting to know new students and beginning to develop those sustaining personal relationships that Jean spoke about earlier. At returns, more students came to campus on fewer days, and paradoxically, this actually made it easier for them to connect with each other and helped faculty who worked with both campus and WED students deal with their workloads. Related to student growth was a shift in majors that they chose, and I don't know if all of you were aware of this. In the 1980s, a majority of WED students were business majors, and some of you who are from that era probably were business majors. But by the late 1990s, and to this day, a majority of WED students are education majors. The Woods and its education department faculty worked diligently to attain and then to maintain accreditation by a body called NCAPE, which is the national group that accredits teacher education programs. In the early 1990s, WED began helping adults who already had undergraduate degrees attain teacher licensure, and this included both men and women. WED's education faculty also seized a wonderful opportunity when the Indiana legislature required that all teacher education programs in the state provide a new kind of program, an accelerated transition to teaching program for adults. And while many Indiana colleges and universities met this requirement on paper, in fact, they didn't really accommodate adult students, and they really didn't want adult students enrolled in those programs. But through WED, the Woods offered an already established, accredited, and very flexible program that did meet adult needs, and so they enrolled as word spread about the availability of such a program. Another change I'd just like to mention is course formats. Today, 4-credit courses of just about every conceivable length and learning format and combination are commonly available at colleges all over the country. But this was not true in the 1980s. Many WED students wanted a way to experience some classroom-based learning, but not on weekdays because they had to work, and not on evenings because they had to be home with their kids, and maybe Saturdays, but not for 16 straight weeks because of soccer games and having to work and all sorts of things. And so creative and very dedicated Woods faculty figured out how to deliver a program that would work for them, and the result was called the alternative format course. For the last 20 years, 300 or more WED students every year have enrolled in these courses, usually held on Saturdays, on the Woods campus. Some students chose courses that they thought might be particularly difficult for them without classroom help. Others heard by that grapevine how stimulating Father Bernie's theology courses were, or how interesting and enjoyable Bob Watts made those ID courses, or how students shared practical experiences and diverse viewpoints in human services courses or in education courses. WED students made lifelong friends, and I can see some of you sitting there smiling and nodding, you're concurring with me on this. And many comment that having that particular option and having it now kept them on track and moving more quickly towards graduation.